Herzlich willkommen bei Find the Flow, dein Podcast von Pferdemensch zu Pferdemensch.
Hello, herzlich willkommen bei Find the Flow. Today in English, because we have a special guest here from Mexico, especially for the podcast. No, that's not true. Like you guys know, we organized the Vaquero Classics for like 10 years, and this year we had the idea, like always, to bring someone or something new into the game. So I asked my good friend Alfonso Aguilar, and he recommended me a really cool guy from Mexico who is doing horsemanship, hoofs, and lots more. But I think the easiest is if you would introduce yourself. Carlos, hello. Cool to have you here.
Well, thank you, Alex. It's always difficult to introduce yourself, but I'll try to do it. And thank you for the invitation for the podcast. Well, I consider myself just like an experienced beginner or a really passionate for the horse. So a student of a horse. I come from a family of charros, so it's a third generation. So I've always been involved with horses, but I have been like the black sheep of my family, trying to explore several paths. So even though I know the tradition from my country, I started to like mixing it with different styles, and since 10 years ago, I started like exploring several paths, and trying to mix it. And what I do in Mexico is try to share what I'm learning from, and then help the question culture to grow and be more flexible, not so dogmatic, but at the same time trying to be respectful for the tradition, because I think we have really good stuff there. But we also can learn from other cultures and other ways of doing stuff, So my goal is to share, keep learning, and I don't know how many years I will be able to do it, but that's what gets me going on and keeps me like really alive.
Yeah, sounds really interesting, and you're still young, so I think you will have lots of years, or way more years to learn. Well, we were talking a little bit about your who you met, what you did with the horses, and what your experiences were. So I think maybe for the people outside, it's maybe interesting also what you did, because you went to the States, you told me, and you were even part of the Legacy of Legends. So I think some of you might know this event. It's a memory event for Ray Hunt. They invented it after Ray Hunt died. I don't know, it was 2009. Wow, long ago. So they invented this event. But maybe you would like to tell us a little bit more. But I think most of the people outside, they had never been there.
Well, yeah, I started going to the States because I already knew some of the horsemen in Mexico. Like, for example, I really like to take clinics with Alfonso. And after like exploring what I had like access in Mexico, I started like, it's easier for me to go to the States, So I thought back then I was like 26 years old, and I thought I was old because, and then I found out about this Legacy of Legend scholarship program, and so I applied. You need to make an essay, a video, and it depends if they choose you or not. It's like several people that see your application and then decide if you win, then they decide where you learn from. No, you can get to pick your mentors. Okay. And you can be for 1 month or 3 months. Back then they had the sponsor from Western Horseman, the magazine. So I was lucky enough to get the 3-month scholarship, and I had the chance to stay like 3 weeks following Buck Brannaman in clinics. Then I went with Jayton Lord, that he's Ray Hunt's grandson, and then with Joe Walter also like 3 or 4 weeks. So for me that was like also a life change. because not only I was lucky and able to learn from them, but to contrast their styles, even though they come from the same lineage, if you want to call that, but they have several differences. And I got like really cool stuff from the three of them. And then I need to do like some reports to share to the people what I was learning. And they do they used to do this event every year, and they would do like an auction sale for the horses, and also all the income from the tickets was going to keep the scholarship going on. No, so more young people would be able to learn and keep the legacy on. So it was really cool because even though I never met Ray or Tom Dorrance, but I got like the feeling and the vibe of them, and even the sayings or the quotes that everybody repeats, then they get a different meaning now. And it depends of the stage of your life. And some simple quotes can mean several stuff later on your life. No, it changes. So for me, that was really cool. And it got me going on exploring and learning from them. And it was really also a humble experience because, well, that's when I found out that I'm a beginner, no? But I really like to be a beginner.
Yeah, it's cool to be a beginner. No, it's fun.
And what else about that? Well, after that, I started doing more clinics in Mexico, and it came in stages. I was really focused on horsemanship in the western part, and then when I kept talking with Alfonso, he talked to me, and he recommended me to just not to explore the western stuff, so to open my mind and be more flexible and get to know more ways of doing stuff. He recommended me to go to Europe, and luckily enough, I'm here. So it was always a great experience to witness the special edition of the Vaquero Classics, and this trip in Europe is like opening my mind and my eyes and also to be more confident about what I want to explore and keep sharing. So now I'm mixing hoof trimming with horsemanship, and I know just a little bit about academic art of riding through webinars and online programs. So my goal is to be more balanced and have several tools to help each horse. And I really enjoy trimming because it gets me like a really deep connection with a horse in making them comfortable. And for me, that's like the basic stuff to start like a relationship with a horse. Like they know that you can make them feel really good, and then the trust keeps growing and growing and growing unless you don't like make a really big mistake.
Yeah, trimming is an interesting part. I know you've learned from, or your friend with David Landreville. So I think some people know him, maybe some don't know him. So, but I think it's not only what you said. It's not only about trimming. It's about making a connection. I've seen David live working on a horse. I've seen you live working on a horse. So I think there's something special. So what is special when you trim the horses, or when David trims the horses? Because normally they are fixed to a wall or something like that. Someone is trimming the hoofs and then they go, but it's different, isn't it?
Well, I found out about David's approach like 3 years ago, so I'm really new in this hoof trimming. But what I really like about the style that he teaches is that it's not like you need to have really good knowledge about the anatomy, no? But instead of going like really, really technical, you can also, after you have that stage of the technical and the anatomy, then you can focus more about your technique using the tools. But for me, the most important part is the approach and the emotional and the energetic feel that you get, and to be really clear with your intention when you're trimming, and to keep you really focused and centered in what you're doing. And for me, it's just like you get into the flow. You have an idea of what you're doing, but you're not overthinking. You're just like following. And for me, that gets me like in a stage like I'm just an instrument of making the horse really comfortable. And I think that's the same thing that some of us experience when we train horses. Suddenly we're out of time or out of space, and then it's just like, if you want to call it like magical mystery feeling, or that it only lasts like some seconds or some minutes, it depends. But I get the same thing when I get really into the trimming. So with David Landerville, I think he can teach a lot of people how to start like going on and to use the tools, and even for horse owners to be not so dependent of a professional, not in the wrong way, but to start like taking responsibility in the horse welfare, no? And I really like his style because he has like a really good experience in rehabilitation horses, his own horses in the beginning, and now that he has this online program, like it's called Hoof Builders. It began in Patreon, but now he has his own website. And you have videos, you have several thousands of cases and photos of rehabilitation cases. So there's always another case that you can relate on. And if you have a horse, then you can see how it progresses. And it's not a linear stage or a linear part. So that's interesting to see. And he can give you really good feedback. So for me, that's really good about that. And not only the technique, not only the knowledge of anatomy, but the more emotional side of being with a horse.
And I think a really important part is that he's trimming the hoofs like you do in Liberty with the horse. So the horse has always a choice to say it's good or it's not so good. I better go and listen to the horse, what the horse is really like. Yeah, you told me, or you told here, you said here that you are even know a little bit about the academic art of riding. That's it's cool, but it's a little bit crazy because Bent is living in Denmark. Yes, I know there are academic trainers all over the world, but it proves that you are really interested in different styles and things like that. So how did you get in touch to this, or what did you do to get in touch to this?
Well, that was like in 2017 or something like, or 16. So back then I think Bent didn't have a lot of videos. So I started like doing research and what I could learn from an online program. It needed to be an online program, because not only in the States or nobody in America would give clinics about that. So what I found, it was a straightness training program. So that was a really good immersion in it. I did a little bit of videos to submit some touchstones, they call it. So I really liked the groundwork. For me, it was way different the way I was taught in the Western culture. It was more detailed, more directive, but I felt that it helps the horses. For me, it's like thinking about plastiline, or how do you call it? Yeah. When you buy a new one, it's like really stiff, and once you get like, for me, it's like once you get like the basic horsemanship going on, then you get a more supple horse. Then you can start being directive and more detail about how they move and the position of the neck or the shoulders, or if you see some movement in the hip or the hind leg. So for me, mixing those features with the Western heritage, it was really cool, because it's like combining two elements that can be really good. For some people, could be confusing, but it gave me more tools to teach people and to avoid some like really big mistakes that I thought it was good stuff, but I knew that something like wasn't like really making sense, because when I asked why, they never told me like the why. No, yeah. So I always tell people that we should be like a 3 or 4 year children that always ask why and why and why.
Yeah.
And so for me, learning about that, and then later on, I got some access to the webinars and videos that they're doing, Mario Schneider and the program that they're doing, other webinars from Bettina. So it's strange that someone in Mexico likes to study about that, but I think it will help any horse, no? So I'm really open to keep mixing traditions and cultures and making a really, like, probably could sound like a really strange style. So it's difficult to define it, and I don't want to define it.
No. I think there's no need to define it, but I think it's maybe there's a time in educating a horse where different styles are important or necessary. For example, when you start a horse, you need some horsemanship or whatever it's called. So you need to lead the horse, put the horse in a trailer, make the horse give a little bit left or right, standing the hindquarters, standing the shoulders, and all that stuff. So I think it fits pretty good together, because if you have all this really detailed and really defined, then you can go on and can go more to the detailed stuff. And although those guys, I know that Bent a few years ago or some years ago, and also Mario Schneider or all the other guys, they would not have done like Liberty Stellung or whatever with their horses, but now they also do this. So I think it's from both sides, and it's pretty cool that the horse world gets more open, and that the people do some research and put some different styles in their own education, because I think the horses can take a big profit out of that. So for me, what would be interesting, of course, because I have been to Mexico like almost 20 years ago visiting Alfonso, I've seen a charreada. So what do you think is special or is really cool on the Mexican horsemanship? I know it's like everywhere, it got more fancy and more competition style, but I think there's way more behind that style, where it comes from, where the foundation is. So would you explain that a little bit?
Well, I'm not a really connoisseur of the whole tradition, but I have some information. And for me, what it's really cool is that in the beginning it was for working purposes. So you would take really good care of your tools for the work. That would mean your horse, your tack and everything. And also the cattle. For me, it was really important. Like it was in the same, the horse and the cattle. And I think we should keep that. And I think that I experienced that more in the States, like the taking care of, that nowadays the tradition of the Mexican competitions, no? Because now they make a show and they're not involved with the cattle. It's not their cattle, so they don't, it doesn't matter a lot to them if they stressed a lot the cow, no? But they are keeping the tradition and they're like really refining it. For example, the trick roping. It's amazing what they can do. And they're little by little, they're starting to do some changes in the horses' welfare. Not only because pressure from the public and other institutions, but also because people are getting more knowledge about like what a horse needs to be like on a emotional state and physical state, like, you know. So for me, it's gonna be interesting, like how to influence the industry, because I think all of us that have seen some stuff that we don't like, we need, like in the beginning stage, you need like to fight it, but I don't want to fight it anymore. I just try to recognize what it's good in it, and then try to do my own stuff. And little by little, I think that they will try to do some changes. So for me, it doesn't matter who's learning from who, but just sharing some experiences. And if they're open, or at least they see you doing something else, I think curiosity will work by itself. Because sometimes you hit the road or the wall when you have a trouble with a horse, and that's when you begin to ask for help or other solutions. So for me, having troubles or having accidents or whatever, it's always a learning opportunity. So it's not so good sometimes, but it's when people are more open to learn. So sometimes what I can learn from them is that they are really professionals. They are really handy. The horsemanship level is also going on, the genetic selection for the horses. But I think in the future we should like try to go back and not so into the showmanship, but more into the essence of the tradition that was working purposes, being more in open fields, and also that's also going to be a cultural shift because we need to do that more, like not only thinking about the horses, but also the whole context of the horse industry or the horse culture, no? The soil, the houses, the workers, everyone, no? So for me, that's the main challenge in Mexico. And I don't think I answered the first question that you told me about the liberty. And that's a really good one. For me, liberty is not only like a physical approach. For me, like it's also an emotional approach. Because you can see some horses that they can do really good stuff on liberty, but the expression that they do, or that they have when they do that, it's not, for me, it's not like liberty because they're like really well trained and well conditioned, no?
Forced to.
And when and when they say no, then pressure comes, no? So it's not like I say no, and I can be okay. No, it's like you say no, and then more pressure is gonna come. So for me, it's a conversation. They can say no, they can ask me some questions, but I think some people don't take the time or they don't make enough pauses or silence to allow the horse to express and even make some questions, no? And for me, that's like I don't take it as a challenge or for my ego or for my way of doing stuff. Because I know that if I try something and in 5 minutes I don't get something, maybe I'm not like in the right conversation or I'm not asking the right question. So I need to shut myself and then try to be a little bit more humble and then allow the horse to tell me like in what stage he is. No?
Yeah, I think that's a pretty important part because lots of people think as soon as you have a horse in a round pen and it's free, it's really nice and it's liberty and everything is super fine and perfect for the horse. But there's no way out for the horse. It's just a round pen. There's even no corner where the horse can just stand still and say no. And then some round pens, they have closed walls, so the horse cannot look to the outside. So it's quite a lot of pressure, even just from the round pen. And then you have a man or a woman inside making some more pressure. So if you really talk about liberty, then it would be like 100 hectares. Go out to the horses and then try to get a communication with them. That would be a real liberty. But I like it that you ask the horses for their expression and that they can tell you what they need or what they want. That's pretty cool. I really like it. So now you're in Europe for, I don't know, like 1 month. We are in Europe. Okay, cool. I think you have seen some horses, you have seen some people, riders. Let's say if you need to compare the US, because you're pretty used to, and you've met a lot of famous guys there, the US, Mexico, and don't say Europe because, for example, Portugal is pretty different from Germany. Let's say Germany and Austria. What would you say about the horse world, about the horsemanship? What are the specialties, or let's say, what are the good parts about those countries? Not so much the differences, but what would you say is special and pretty cool in Mexico? What do you really like in the States? What have you seen in Germany or Austria? What you like? Hopefully, I don't know.
Well, I have seen really good stuff here in Europe, and I think what I take, or I'm taking more from here, is the technical and also the openness to learn. I think, or at least my experience, I have been in really good events like the Vaquero. and I felt that openness to learn, and to be more eclectic and be more open to several approaches, but really good technique and really good knowledge about functional anatomy and how the horse is moving, the biomechanic and all that stuff, and using refined tools. I went to Vienna to see the Spanish riding school, and just to witness that, like just the whole environment and the context and how they ride and how they treat the horse and all the tradition, it also gives me that, that like we're not inventing the wheel, but it comes from a really old tradition. So I get that from Europe and from the States. For me, it's like, or at least what I experienced over there is like the tradition that followed from Mexico. So for me, going to the States, it was to witness my heritage, but in a refined tradition. And in some ways, they would take more care of the details of the tack, the bozal or the saddles, or some stuff that maybe in Mexico we are like behind, because I think we forgot about our craftsmanship and recognize the artist people that used to do that. And in Mexico, what I do is like what I really like is that it's like they're really functional. They keep doing the job, but they need to keep asking how the horse is doing the job. I think that they have a saying that your eyes can see what your brain doesn't understand. Mm-hmm. So you first need to like explore a little bit and ask some questions, and then you can see like several stuff, And so for me, that was the hoof. The hoof's like, once you get like a basic knowledge, you see a hoof, and there's always something that could be better, And for me, that's the thing that we need to keep asking in Mexico. Like, what I'm doing, is for the benefit of the horse, not only for my purposes, but is it also for the benefit of my horse? And when they can mix those two, I think we're gonna have a way better heritage for the next generation. And we're gonna keep our tradition, But in the States, I felt that, and it's a whole mix of the same heritage, But in different countries, different even sociological way of being and living, In Mexico, we're more easygoing. We're not really structured. There's not a lot of clinics. This is really not new, but we don't have it like since too long. Yeah. In the States, they like to be more structured and follow one clinician or following one path. Yeah. And in Europe, what I like the most is there's like way too much people to learn from. Okay. So it's like having that openness to learn. Like there's like a whole world too, and there's decisions to make.
So I'm really glad that we asked you to come to the Vaquero Classics, because I think it was great, and it's great that I know you now. So maybe it's interesting. What are your plans for the future? Are you planning to do clinics, maybe even in Europe? Do you would like to come to Europe doing a clinic, like a short tour or something like that? Or would you like to stay more in Mexico or go into the States? Or what is, if you could just say, okay, that's my plan, if everything would work. So what would be your plans?
Well, on the short term is, I don't know. I would like to stay in Mexico because my roots are there, even though I don't have like my own place to establish now, but I'm on my way to do it. Keep sharing it. What I do is like there's a word in Sanskrit, like it's dharma. It's like not my duty because I'm forced to, but it's like one of my purposes of what I'm living. No, if I avoid that, I think it would make sense to be born in Mexico. But I want to keep going to Europe, and not only to share, but also to keep learning. So if I can make a mix of those two, I would be really happy, because that would feed my soul about keep learning, always stay humble, and also be really open to teach and share the insights that I keep getting from the horse. So yeah, that the mix of those two would be really interesting, and especially like doing stuff that kind of not shocks the people because it's strange, but it's like the mix of cultures. In Mexico, it would be really strange to do the art of like the academic art of writing. I want to keep doing it and start like showing that there's other approaches, probably more detailed, more refined, and really different to even the tag that we use or the tools. But the mix of coming and going and comparing ways of doing stuff that will make me really happy. So I don't know, who knows what's the plan for the next year, maybe. But 1 month or 2, whatever I can do, that would be really good.
So there is a chance that we will see you again here in Europe. Let's see, maybe next year for Find the Flow, or when you do some clinics here. If someone is interested to organize a clinic with Carlos in the future, you can find him on our Facebook sites. The full name on the social medias, you can pronounce it.
Well, people ask me that how many profiles do I have? I have one for the horsemanship. It's Caballos y Vida. That's horses and life in Spanish. So Caballos is CABALLOS. EY. Vida is life, so Vida is VEDA. I'll make it simple, or my personal one is Carlos Mancera. Horseman, CERA. You know?
Yeah, if you're interested, just contact him. That would be cool. I say thank you very much. It was nice to talk with you. We will do a barbecue now. Right in between our talk, you could hear the dog drinking and stuff like that, but that makes it real. So there's no fake podcast. It's real. It's here on the table, and we will go for a barbecue now. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to have you here. It was really great to have you at the Classics, and it was really great to have you here for that podcast.
No, thank you, Nina. And thank you also to Alfonso for the recommendation and for always trying to put me in the stage to keep learning. And thank you all for listening, and hope to see you soon.
Bye.